Testing, testing, testing. Good morning. That sounds good, John? Think it'll be okay? Okay, great.
I haven't yet. The ceremony. The ceremony will begin in 5 minutes. Please feel free to move to your seating area. Again, we have 2 rows of reserved seating in the front for all Gold Star family members who are in attendance today. Please note that public restrooms are located behind the chapel. Handicapped restrooms are available inside the building. And if you need medical attention during the ceremony, please go to the Metro Area Ambulance located by the chapel building. Thank you, Metro Area Ambulance. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. On behalf of Commander-in-Chief of the North Dakota National Guard, Governor Doug Burgum, the Adjutant General, Major General Al Dorman, and the staff of the North Dakota Veterans Cemetery, welcome to these hallowed grounds for the 2024 Memorial Day Remembrance Ceremony. I'm Captain Thomas Hansen of the North Dakota National Guard, and it is my honor to serve as your Master of Ceremonies. Thank you for attending today's ceremony and for joining us online. The pre-ceremony music was performed by the North Dakota National Guard's 188th Army Band Brass Ensemble. Today, in observance of Memorial Day, we recognize all of the American patriots who gave their lives in defense of our nation, as well as those who served our nation in uniform but have since passed away. We have assembled here today to honor the memories of all these deceased brave men and women and to reflect on their service and sacrifice in defense of liberty's blessings. If you look behind me to the southeast, you will see two UH-60 Black Hawk helicopters approaching. They will pass over the cemetery at approximately 1,000 feet above ground level. Our National Guard Army aviation units have logged more than 159,600 hours of accident-free flying, a great safety record dating back to 1958. The Black Hawk aircraft is ideally suited for logistics and missions in support of homeland security, light transport, emergency response, medical evacuations, as well as search and rescue. These aircraft are assigned to our Bismarck-based North Dakota National Guard aviation units. Since the tragic attacks of September 11, 2001, our Army Guard aviators and assets have been deployed to Afghanistan, Iraq, Kosovo, Bosnia, Djibouti, Africa, Canada, and within our borders in support of our nation's war on terrorism. In 2021, North Dakota National Guard helicopters helped fight wildland fires near Medora and Roosevelt Creek. In 2022, they distributed water from 600-gallon buckets at a train derailment near Delax and assisted in stabilizing the Burbanus Dam in Cavalier County by placing more than 200 one-ton sandbags. More recently, in 2024, they broke up an ice jam in the Missouri River between Mandan and Bismarck. Today's flight crews are led by Lieutenant Colonel Michael Green. Other pilots are Chief Warrant Officer 4, Brent Fries, Chief Warrant Officer 3, Shane Langang, First Lieutenant Alexander Wiechek, and crew chiefs, Staff Sergeant Cody Getz, Sergeant Parker Lind, Sergeant Joey Vandervliet, Sergeant Dan Peters. The Black Hawk approach is a tribute to our fallen comrades here and in cemeteries across our nation and throughout the world. Ladies and gentlemen, if you are able, please stand and face the flag plaza for the posting of colors, and please remain standing for the national anthem. Color Guard commanders, post your colors. The veterans organizations participating in today's ceremonies are listed in your program. We are extremely proud of these organizations and their auxiliaries for their contributions to our communities. These men and women continue to serve a grateful nation through their support of our troops, fellow veterans, and military families and the fallen, to include rendering military honors during funerals. We are also very proud of the spirit of uniformed services in our Native American communities, whose per capita service in the military continues to be among the highest of any community in the nation. Performing the national anthem is Warrant Officer 1, Tessa Hogan of the North Dakota National Guard. During the national anthem, it is appropriate for military personnel and veterans to render a hand salute. Civilians are encouraged to place their right hand over their heart and remove hats. Ladies and gentlemen, please direct your attention to the Flag Plaza for our national anthem.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hail at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rocket's red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave?
Thank you, Ms. Hogan. Our opening prayer will be rendered by Pastor John Stratius, who is serving as the senior pastor at the Lord of Life Church in Bismarck.
Let us pray. Almighty God, you are our strength and our shield. You are just, good, and benevolent. We give you thanks for the countless members of the armed forces who have died while serving. Comfort their loved ones who grieve. May their sacrifice serve to motivate all of us to work for peace and an end to all war. Give your wisdom and guidance to all leaders to desire justice and peace for all. We pray this all in the name of God our Creator, Christ the Redeemer, and in the name of the Spirit who empowers us all. Amen.
Thank you, Pastor Stratius. Ladies and gentlemen, please be seated. At this time, I will introduce the official party for today's remembrance ceremony. Governor Doug Burgum, Commander-in-Chief of the North Dakota National Guard, and North Dakota's First Lady Catherine. Major General Al Dorman, North Dakota Adjutant General, and his wife Becky. Admiral Stuart Munch, Commander of U.S. Naval Forces Europe, U.S. Naval Forces Africa, and Allied Joint Forces Command Naples. Also in attendance today are numerous retired military leaders, 2 elected state leaders, members of our North Dakota Legislative Assembly, general officers, and senior non-commissioned officers. Also in the audience are several former adjutants general. Thank you all for joining us today. Thank you Vietnam Vets, Legacy Vets Motorcycle Club, who organized today's honor run of motorcycles. There were over 600 motorcycles on the run. Our program will begin with remarks from the Commander-in-Chief of the North Dakota National Guard, the Honorable Doug Burgum.
Good morning. We're here today because every day in America should be a day of gratitude, but today, and especially today, this is a special day of honor, a day of where Americans gather in gratitude, a day of remembering. We know there's no greater call than laying down one life for another, and the men and women that have been laid to rest here and in cemeteries across our country and across the world have answered that call selflessly. They gave their lives for our nation, and in turn, we share our gratitude and praise for their service. We do this here today because I see in North Dakota, and Catherine and I have had a chance to see a lot of America the last year, but I truly believe the best of America is happening right here, right now, in this spot. This is a place where people care about our veterans. We care about freedom. We care about liberty. We support and back law enforcement in our state. And we don't just back them with words, we back them with actions. The actions like all of you that are here today and those that are listening online that are here to support, because understanding how important it is and understanding that freedom is not something that just happens, it's something we have to fight for. So I want to lead off with gratitude for all of you that are here, our veterans, active duty members, National Guard and Reserve, the family members, North Dakota citizens, many of whom are also enrolled tribal members, our veteran service organizations, our special guest Admiral Munch, citizens from across North Dakota and beyond for coming here today to be here, to share their gratitude for those who've served our country and given their lives for our freedom. And as we just acknowledge, a special thanks to the hundreds and hundreds of Patriot Riders, Freedom Riders, Vietnam Legacy Riders that are here today. And those that are helping to make this service possible. Thank you, Captain Hansen, for your service and for being MC today. And starting off with Pastor with a fantastic prayer and with Tessa with a pledge. I mean, when you get to gather start with a prayer and the pledge, you know that you're in the best of America. But here we are today in this wonderful place, but we know that across the world today, as we stand here today, the enemies of freedom are on the march all over the world. Unlike other years when we've gathered here over my time and in service to the state, we're now actively engaged in supporting our allies in 2 proxy wars. We're here today at the time when literally we're at war with Russia and with Iran. We're in a Cold War with China, and we're in a cyber war every single day with enemies from around the world, and that's happening all the way down to the state and local level. And for North Dakotans who have served or are currently serving, including North Dakota's very own 3-star Admiral Munch, who's here today, I want to say to all of you that have served and are here today, thank you. You make North Dakota proud. And we're looking forward to hearing more from Admiral Munch. He's going to be sharing some stories about some remarkable North Dakotans, but I do want to give him a special thank you. We've never had a 3-star Admiral come to this event before, and as you heard from the introduction, he's holding one of the most important military leadership positions in all the U.S. military. But if you read his bio and all the awards and recognition and leading our forces in Africa and Europe and working with NATO and the command there, he starts his bio with one thing: North Dakota native, every time. So we love that. Thank you, Admiral Munch, for being here. And we know everybody that's here from Culm and Oaks is happy too. All those tornadoes from Oaks are here. That's their team name. It's not an actual storm, but it's It's their team name, one of the great team names in North Dakota. But for nearly 32 years here at the North Dakota Veterans Cemetery, which opened in 1992, it served as a peaceful and honorable resting place for our heroes. Every visit that I ever have out here is a reminder of how fortunate we are to literally have one of the most beautiful, most respectful, and one of the best maintained state-run military cemeteries in the country. And the credit for that goes to outstanding crew here, led by Cemetery Director Pam Helbling-Schaefer, oversight of General Dorman. Incredible job. Yes, give it up for them. 70 acres, care and respect, appropriate final resting place for military heroes and their families. So I want to say thank you to Pam and the team and all the veteran service organizations and other volunteers that we have. You look at these headstones that are out there, everyone's got a flag. We got volunteers that come out and put those out. Everything that we do to preserve and maintain these hallowed grounds, and the legislators that are here today, thank you, because we continue to make investments in here in the physical structure and infrastructure to make sure that this is going to be a place that will literally last forever, honoring those veterans. When I look back, and all of you look over our shoulders here and look down to the Missouri River, and you can think about the fact that when the first U.S. soldiers came to North Dakota was in the late 1860s and late 1870s. And many things haven't changed. The view that you see out there, that beautiful landscape, is much the same today as it was when they arrived. And what a credible setting that we have right here next to Fort Lincoln, historic Fort Lincoln. It's for me, it's something I haven't shared at past events. This is the 7th time I've been here, but it was as part of that early group. My great-grandfather was a major, Frank Slaughter, that was part of that first group of folks that came to Fort Rice and later to Fort Lincoln. And with him, his wife, often called the doctor's wife, he was a surgeon, Linda Slaughter. But they were part of that group that was here. And they came and they helped pioneer and settle this area. My grandmother was among the very first born, and it was then Camp Hancock, but later became Edmonton and now Bismarck. But when I think back about what they arrived, when they came here, the last railroad station was 873 miles away. So they'd come upriver by boat for almost 900 miles to get to this spot on the frontier. And what they carved out here that all of us have benefited, but many things have changed in that time from the early 1870s, almost over 150 years ago, but many things haven't. And one of the things that we talk about here when we talk about how peaceful it is here is we talk about our nation's military heroes and our current armed forces. And you hear the phrase, peace through strength. And this is since the time of the Roman Empire, that phrase has existed. And it's absolutely true. Having the ability to project power and having the leadership willing to exercise that power is what creates real deterrence and stops aggressors. We get peace through strength. We get war through weakness. Ronald Reagan embodied peace through strength, and he ended the Cold War that brought down the Soviet Union and the Berlin Wall without firing a bullet. And we've got heroes laid to rest here at the North Dakota Veterans Cemetery and also at the new Fargo National Cemetery and at places like Arlington National Cemetery, D.C., and cemeteries across our great nation. And they've all earned our gratitude and respect for their role in maintaining peace through strength throughout America's history. And as I've said, it's not something we can take for granted. American greatness isn't given. Freedom isn't free. Freedom must be earned. And freedom needs champions who believe that Americans' role in the world is not a passive bystander, but someone who has to fight to create that shining beacon on the hill. Champions who spread the ideals of liberty and show the world that the road to prosperity is actually paved with freedom. And when we think about the freedom that we fought for since the founding of this country, it's the ultimate price. Those that have died in battles for fighting for freedom is now totals over 1.8 million casualties. And that goes back to the very beginning, but also World War I, World War II, Korea, Vietnam, many Vietnam vets that are here today, the Gulf War, the Global on Terror, our youngest veterans. But 1.8 million is such a large number, and statistics are so faceless. But each of those who gave their life in service to the country was somebody's son, somebody's daughter. Many were moms and dads and aunts and uncles. because we know that when one person serves, the entire family serves. And anyone who's lost a relative who's died in service in any of these affairs, we know there's sons and daughters of World War II veterans here. But today especially, our Gold Star mothers, Gold Star fathers and families, we salute you today and we honor your sacrifice. You're in our prayers. You always have our support. And if we have any of you here among us today who've lost a family member in a current or recent or even distant war, if you're one here who's had a member that's died in service to our country, if you're able to stand, please do, and let us give you appreciation for you and your family for your service. Thank you. Yes, only through sacrifice does our nation survive, because our men and women in uniform, they defend the very freedoms that make our life possible. I had an opportunity growing up in North Dakota to take advantage of that freedom. With other young folks in North Dakota, we started a company, and we ended up with customers all over the world in over 120 different countries. So I've seen firsthand, because we were serving customers in countries that didn't have the freedoms that we have today. So as a young person, I came up realizing, wow, there's people that don't have the right to vote. They don't have the right to assemble like we're doing here. They don't have the right to free speech. They don't have the right to religion, and they certainly, in many of those countries, don't have the right to bear arms. They don't have the freedom to elect their leaders, to represent them at all levels, at the local or state or national level. The freedom to choose where they wanted to live, to choose to start a business, to choose what profession they wanted to pursue. And it's easy sometimes for us to take those freedoms for granted. But peace through strength. If we want the world to have peace and we want freedom and liberty to spread, President Roosevelt said once, speak softly and carry a big stick. Now, anybody who's ever cleaned up after a windstorm in North Dakota knows big sticks come in different sizes and shapes. But certainly here in North Dakota, one thing we know is that the energy that we produce can be a big stick. We had an opportunity 4 years ago to become an energy independent nation, and now we're on a path where we're headed towards energy dependence on our adversaries. But by becoming an energy, not just energy independent, but energy dominant, instead of an energy that's reliant on other nations, we can strengthen America and our allies, including our allies in the Pacific and Western Europe that our forefathers fought for. Bringing manufacturing jobs and supply chains back to the United States can be a big stick. We can create great jobs, reduce our dependence on our adversaries. Something we know a lot about in North Dakota is agriculture. Agriculture certainly is a big stick. We talk about in North Dakota, we feed and fuel the world, and so does our nation. North Dakota is the breadbasket to the world and gives us the strength to support what should be a powerful economic trade position in the world. Because some of our adversaries, they have to import energy and food every day. These are the sticks that we should be wielding, because if we're wielding those, then maybe we don't have to wield military strength. But military is the biggest stick of all. And generation after generations of Americans, of North Dakotans, have stepped up to serve and defend our country because they understand that evil never sleeps. Thomas Jefferson said the price of freedom is eternal vigilance, and this includes all of us. And it was acknowledged in the introduction, but I certainly want to give a special shout out here as we, on these lands in Morton County, south of Mandan, a city named after one of our early tribes. That this includes our Native American citizens, enrolled members who are also North Dakota citizens, and their proud warrior culture because they serve in the military, U.S. military, at a higher percentage than any other group in the country. Our 248-year history of our great nation rests on a foundation of noble principles that have inspired generations to fight for liberty both here and with our allies around the world. Remarkably, next week in early June, it's going to be the 80th anniversary of D-Day. Incredible turning point in world history when we lost so many lives on a single day, but a day that changed the course of our country and changed the course of history for billions of people. First Lady Catherine and I have had the honor of visiting Normandy in the incredible U.S.-maintained cemetery near Omaha Beach. There's nearly 10,000 buried U.S. veterans there, including Theodore Roosevelt's, one of his own sons, one of the only two pair of father and son Medal of Honor winners in U.S. history, the other actually being the MacArthur family from Pacific history. But Admiral Munch, our North Dakota native, three-star admiral, he's going to be there next week as part of his command duties, overseeing some of the 80th anniversary remembrance ceremonies. And well, that day was going on in 1944, those that served in World War II in the Pacific theater, where my father was serving as a naval officer on a destroyer. The famous battles at Iwo Jima in February of 45 and Okinawa in March in 45, one of the deadliest and bloodiest battles in history. Those were not yet to come for another 8 or 9 months until after D-Day. And when we think about MIAs, and we think about those that have lost in wars distant and recent, we should also remember too that the greatest number of MIAs in our history are Pacific sailors whose lives were lost in battles like at Okinawa, where there was 151 destroyers and 129 were hit by kamikazes. But that inspiration for the sacrifice of those generations and those that have come after them continues to serve today. And here in North Dakota, we play such a critical role in national security. Our 2 Air Force bases at Grand Forks and Minot, 2 of the 3 legs of the strategic triad with both a bomber and a missile wing. The work that's going on at Grand Forks and the Air Force Base there with unmanned aerial systems, and what we're doing there is literally both of those bases project power around the world every day from here in North Dakota. And also critical surveillance, intelligence, and reconnaissance missions that are going on, and now with Space Force in North Dakota, and our very own Happy Hooligans, the 119th in Fargo, on active duty missions, directing and serving and piloting missions around the world right now, today from Fargo. We're engaged in these wars that are happening right now, right here. We're playing a critical role in North Dakota, and we should not forget that. And then, of course, our North Dakota National Guard. I've always said, for anyone who's ever been governor of this great state, the greatest honor is to serve as the commander-in-chief of our amazing National Guard, whether it's helping, being deployed overseas to the U.S. Central Command, fighting floods or wildfires at home, stopping drug trafficking right here. They're an incredible group. Those Lakota helicopters that flew over here, I had a chance, many of you know that we've had North Dakota National Guard deployed at our southern border almost continuously during my time in office, trying to protect our nation from the invasion that's occurring and the mass casualties that are occurring. We've lost more than 5 Vietnams of citizens to overdose deaths related to fentanyl and our open borders. But we had a group down there that was the Lakota helicopters. They were leading and flying missions from San Diego, from the West Coast, all the way to the Gulf Coast, the Gulf of Mexico. Had an opportunity to fly with them. They were working night missions, trying to stop the cartels that are infiltrating our country. Just incredible work that they're doing. And so, again, I want to take a special moment here, and because not only the way they maintain this cemetery, but because they're always ready and always there, and high-performing organizations are always led with high-performing leadership. And I want to take a special moment and thank the leader that I've had a chance to work with during my time, who's leading the North Dakota National Guard. So anybody who's in the North Dakota National Guard, if you could please stand, but let's give it up for your leader, our own Editor General, Alan Dorman, right now. Let's just say thank you for all the work they're doing. Sir. On this Memorial Day, as we honor those military members who've sacrificed their lives, we also, again, want to say thank you to everybody else, as I've mentioned here, that's currently serving, and all these veterans groups that we have, but the American Legion, the AMVETS, Dakota Leathernecks, Disabled American Veterans, Veterans of Foreign Wars, Vietnam Veterans of America, Standing Rock Vietnam Veterans Association, all of our auxiliary chapters do a fabulous job of coordinating, and again, the Honor Run, Vietnam Vets, all these groups, Metro Area Ambulance, Salvation Army, Red Cross, our own North Dakota Highway Patrol, which includes a number of veterans. Thank you to all of you for making today possible. Our administration, as you know, has set a goal for North Dakota to be the most military-friendly state in the nation, and veterans groups play an important role for that. So let's give it up for all of those veterans groups. Thank you all for all you do. And we say that we want to be the most military friendly, not just with words, but with actions and working with our legislature. We pass a half a dozen new things every time the legislature's in session, and that's helping us move up the ranks. A week ago, Wallet Hub ranked North Dakota among the top 5 best states for military retirees. We're working to get to number 1, but we're the only state not on the East Coast to make the top 5, so we're already one of the most military friendly, and that's the support of our administration. I want to thank our Lieutenant Governor Tammy Miller, who chairs the Task Force for Military Issues in North Dakota, Task Force Mind, as well as the great support from our legislature and our congressional delegation. Let's give everybody a hand that's worked to drive that forward. Thank you all. And there's something that each of you can do that doesn't cost a thing. It doesn't require us passing legislation, doing anything, and you're doing it by being here today. And that's when you see somebody in uniform, or if you see a member of law enforcement, do what our 3 kids and I always do when we see somebody, and we just say simply, thank you for your service. You don't have to wait for Memorial Day or Veterans Day or other days to acknowledge people, because in a country right now where we've got around the nation people defunding the police and undermining the role of the military, our gratitude, your gratitude, like you being here today, is putting those words out, sharing them directly with people. Respect for the people that are serving today are ways that we respect those that have already gone before us, and helps us defend our rights to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. So today, I challenge everybody here today to keep sharing that free gift of gratitude with the heroes. And I want to, if you can, pass on that sense of gratitude and spirit of public service and duty to the next generation. Do what we've done with our kids when they were little. Every night we'd say, tell me 3 things today for which you're grateful for. Don't tell me what your problems are, tell me what you're grateful for. And if they don't understand from a young age that something special about this country, if they don't say that they're grateful for their freedom and their freedom of religion, their freedom of speech, all of that, let's make sure that we're passing on those values. We all know that Ronald Reagan said that freedom is never more than 1 generation away from extinction, and we didn't pass it into our children in the bloodstream. It must be fought for, protected, and handed on them to do the same. Or one day we'll spend our sunset years telling our children, our children's children, what it was once like in the United States when we were free. And you don't have to, again, they don't have to serve in the military to pass on this appreciation. You can be doing that today with everyone you see by your simple actions. So again, I'll start by saying again, I started with gratitude and I'm going to close with gratitude, because I want to say to each of you that are here today, thank you for showing your dedication to freedom and liberty. Thank you for caring about this country. Thank you for understanding that we're actually at war today around the world. Thank you for understanding that we've got to fight for the freedoms that we have, and that thank you for understanding that North Dakota is the best of America, a place where we respect God and country and respect the flag. So God bless all of you, God bless the state of North Dakota, and God bless the United States of America. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Governor Burgum. Our next speaker is the Adjutant General of the North Dakota National Guard, Major General Al Dorman.
Got the mic up nice and high. Thanks, Tom. Governor Burgum, thanks for joining us today. Always a great privilege and honor to have our Commander-in-Chief here. First Lady Catherine, thanks for being here. My First Lady, Becky, is also here. And my little boy, Gabe, who thinks he's an inch taller than me, but that's hotly debated. I don't think that's ever been proven. But thanks for joining us today. Admiral Munch, thank you for being here. This is over a year in the making, but I'm so pleased that Admiral Munch was able to join us, and more about him in a few minutes. It's all in attendance and online. Thank you for joining us to remember those that have given their all so that we can gather here today. Through your presence, you are sending a strong message that we mean it when we say we will never forget. Never forget the brave men and women who gave their last full measure to ensure our freedoms. Never forget those who succumbed to the hidden wounds of war, and never forget the families that must carry on. Now, my main job today is to introduce our keynote speaker. But since this is my last Memorial Day, at the North Dakota Veterans Cemetery as the Adjutant General. Next year I'll be in row 3 with the other old guys. So make room for me, yeah. But anyway, I want to take some time to reflect and share some gratitude. I think I've been here every Memorial Day for the past 20 years, except in 2010 when I was deployed to Kosovo. And every year my gratitude grows when I see the outpouring of support North Dakotans display on this day. In many parts of the United States, today is just day 3 of a long weekend. In North Dakota, in Bismarck, Mandan, today remains the day that we take time to honor those through their service and sacrifice, ensure the freedoms we all enjoy. Among all that we honor today are 14 North Dakota National Guard soldiers that have laid down their lives during the global war on terror. In previous years, I've shared that their pictures are under a protective glass top on my desk, and I start each day and end each day by looking at their pictures. I pledge to their families that we will never forget their loved one's sacrifice. On this, my last Memorial Day as the leader of the North Dakota National Guard, I need to say their names one more time. Specialist John Fettig, Staff Sergeant Kenneth Hendrickson, Sergeant Keith Schmitty, Specialist James Holmes, Specialist Philip Brown, Staff Sergeant Lance Koenig, Specialist Cody Wentz, Specialist Michael Hermanson, Sergeant Travis Van Zeus, Corporal Curtis Mayer, Corporal Nathan Goodiron, Corporal Christopher Kleinwachter, and Sergeant First Class Darren Lindy, and finally, Specialist Tyler Orgard. When I look at their faces, I reflect on their willingness to serve, the fact that each wrote a blank check to the United States to protect and defend our Constitution, up to and including at the cost of their own lives. I reflect on the fact that they all volunteered, some multiple times, by taking the oath and in many cases volunteering to fill out a unit that they were not a part of. Today we also honor the families of these soldiers and the families of all who have died in service of our state and nation. I've gotten to know these families of our fallen over the years and continue to admire their grace, compassion, and resiliency. And I do want to highlight, I'm going to add Thomas Sweet to the names I say today. Thomas and Liz Sweet are here, one of our Gold Star families, and then Joyce and Kevin Mayer. Thank you guys for joining us today. And they really do epitomize the grace, compassion, and resiliency of our Gold Star family, so thank you for being here today. Today we also remember those that have succumbed to the hidden wounds. On May 16th of this year, we dedicated the first bridge to the hidden wounds of war in Jamestown, North Dakota. This bridge will serve as a reminder to all of us to engage with those that are struggling. It will be a physical sign of our commitment to remove the stigma for those struggling with mental health and sends a message to the surviving families that we will never forget their loved one's service. To all the families that are grieving a loss or remembering a fallen service member today, please know that we honor your loved one's service through our presence. Please know that we are here for you. And once again, please know that we will never forget. Now, before I introduce our keynote speaker, I need to thank some people. First, our lead planners, the governor already mentioned, Pamela Helbling-Schaefer, the director of the North Dakota Veterans Cemetery, and her dedicated team. As always, the cemetery looks amazing, and as always, you have been an incredible and gracious host. Our other co-planner was Mr. Nathan Rivard, our public affairs officer. He took over this year from Bill Perkovic, who is here. Bill ran this event for as many years as anybody can remember. But Nathan, for a rookie, you did a great job and carried on the legacy of Mr. Perkovic, so thank you for making this day special. Thanks also to the officer in charge for our support detail, Captain Summerfield. Thanks to you and all your volunteers for making this event happen. I also want to thank our pilots, crew chiefs for today's flyover, the 188th Band, Command Sergeant Major Binstock and a cannon crew. You'll hear from them later. Our veteran service organizations, motorcycle clubs, everyone that helped make this day special. And also to Captain Tom Hansen. Not the easiest job emceeing this event. He was almost fired last Thursday. we did a run through of the program, and I joined the meeting, and Captain Hansen shared with me that most people die within 2 years of retirement. So Tom, thanks for your uplifting comments. I'm retiring soon, so there's a chance you could still make major, but I'd be careful. I'd measure your words in the future. But thanks, Tom. You've done a heck of a job. Again, not an easy job emceeing this event. And finally, to all in attendance and online, for taking the time to honor our collective pledge to never forget. It is now my honor to introduce our keynote speaker. Admiral Stuart Munch is a North Dakota native. His academic achievements are impressive. He graduated from the U.S. Naval Academy in 1985 with a Bachelor of Science degree in electrical engineering. Not only was he the brigade commander of his class, but he also distinguished himself as an All-American and national champion pistol shooter. Selected as a Rhodes Scholar, he earned both a Bachelor of Arts and a Master of Arts in Philosophy, Politics, and Economics from the Oxford University. Now, I've been told that the Naval Academy and Oxford are both good schools. But his most impressive academic achievement, in my opinion, is the fact that he is a proud graduate of the Cullum, North Dakota Elementary School. Yeah, let's hear it for Cullum. And the Oaks, North Dakota High School, which I've been told are really good schools. Admiral Munch has an impressive record of service, including 4 consecutive sea duty assignments, command of the USS Albuquerque, a Los Angeles-based fast attack submarine. His extensive experience includes roles in the Pentagon, serving as the military assistant to the Deputy Secretary of Defense and executive assistant to the Director of Submarine Warfare. He commanded Submarine Group 7, deployed and served as Deputy Chief of Naval Operations for Operations Plans and Strategy. In 2019, he served as the Deputy Chief of Naval Operations for Warfighting Development. And in 2022, Admiral Munch assumed command of Allied Joint Force Command Naples, Italy, overseeing NATO military operations across Europe and Africa. He also commands U.S. Naval Forces Europe and U.S. Naval Forces Africa, ensuring security across the Baltic, Mediterranean, and Black Seas. Admiral Munch's awards include the Defense Distinguished Service Medal, the Navy Distinguished Service Medal. He is a member of the Council of Foreign Relations. He is a U.S. Supreme Court Statecraft Fellow and a recipient of the U.S. Navy League's Decatur Award for Operational Excellence. And on a personal note, I think I met the Admiral for the first time when he was the J7, maybe? And somebody said, hey, the Admiral wants to come visit you. I read his resume, and I'm like, oh my gosh, we got nothing in common. This guy is wicked smart and incredibly accomplished, but he has been so gracious to me over the time I've known him. I've attended a number of conferences with him, and I tell you, he always takes time to reach out and connect with North Dakotans. I would submit he's one of the best ambassadors we have from the state of North Dakota to our friends and allies around the world. Just an incredibly accomplished man. Very proud of his roots in North Dakota, has been highlighted already. I've gotten to know his staff a little bit. I don't know if it's every day, but most days, North Dakota could probably come up in a conversation at his headquarters. That doesn't bother them. They say you could probably double that, and they would be fine with it. But just an incredible man, an incredibly accomplished career. So with that, it is my distinct privilege to introduce a remarkable leader and a North Dakota native. Please join me in a warm North Dakota welcome to one of our own, Admiral Stuart Munch.
Well, thank you very much. It's really terrific to be back here in North Dakota, the one place where I truly feel at home. The Gold Star families, Commander-in-Chief Burgum, General Dorman, thanks for your generous introduction. Fellow and past members of active duty, reserve, and guard, members of our armed forces, other public servants, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to this remarkable day. For a North Dakotan, appearing at an official North Dakota event with the governor is quite a privilege. Thank you, Governor Bergen. Speaking at Memorial Day service at the State Veterans Ceremony is a deep honor. And I can't imagine anything more humbling for a North Dakotan to do what I'm about to do today. We have two occasions where we recognize veterans each year. Specific days. Veterans Day in November recognizes all who've served in uniform. Memorial Day today recognizes all who served in uniform and gave their life for their nation. Several years ago, when I was a younger admiral, I was in the duty rotation to represent the Chief of Naval Operations at events where he was unable to attend, but where the presence of an admiral was appropriate for the dignity of the occasion. I was asked one day to go to Baltimore Washington International Airport and represent our head of Navy to greet the arrival of the remains of a World War II Navy corpsman who gave his life while serving with Marines in the island hopping campaign. There were a large number of extended family members there, but there was only one that had a direct recollection of the corpsman's death. And she, as a young girl, had been the first grandchild for her grandparents. And she remembers the raw emotion when she learned of her uncle's death and how thereafter everything changed for her grandparents. But what that little girl didn't know when this news arrived after Christmas is that actually the news had arrived before Christmas. And her grandfather had taken the news when he happened to be alone at home. And he chose to bear the burden by himself for several more days so that his family could have one last joyous Christmas, celebrating the season and with pride of their son and their sibling who was doing so well in the U.S. Navy. Ever since, I've been troubled by how fragile can be the memory of a young service member after their immediate family themselves have passed on, and there are no direct descendants to carry on their memory. For many of the 2,956 North Dakotans who gave their lives while serving in our armed forces, our recollections are incomplete and imperfect. For some, we have gallantry citations to call upon. More often, we do not. For those without gallantry awards, their contribution is no less important. Perhaps no one witnessed their actions. Perhaps no witness survived to tell their story. Or no one, due to the warfighting urgencies at the time, documented the actions they witnessed. Or in a time when uncommon valor was a common virtue, their actions seemed commonplace. Or finally, for those who gave their lives in uniform and circumstances not in direct action with enemy forces, they may not have been recognized for having done something equally important in our nation's effort. Yet, despite all these imperfections, we must remember, as best we can, all who gave their lives while serving in uniform. the prairie, the wind, the birds. As I've traveled the world, these features are the three that, to me, make North Dakota different and special and home. The prairie is subtle. It does not have the instant grandeur of mountains or the obvious splendor of ocean coastlines or the noises and lights of big cities. What the prairie does have is easily overlooked by those in a hurry. Quiet strength, that's what the prairie has. A self-confidence in having adapted over thousands of years to be the source of hardy life. A humility in not trying to be more than what it is. A beauty, when you study on your hands and knees, reveals within just a few square feet tremendous diversity in plants and creatures. Our forebears recognized the prairie as a core feature of North Dakota. Our state crest carries the motto, strength from the soil. Our governor's flag, based on our state crest, repeats the motto, strength from the soil. The crest of our Navy submarine, USS North Dakota, displays the ship's motto, strength from the soil, reapers of the deep. The quiet strength of the prairie is reflected in our people, self-confidence, humility, more than meets the eye. During the Second World War, Lowell Raynard Nelson of Grand Forks graduated from high school in 1943 and enlisted in the United States Navy. He must have had a sense for what he was in for well publicized had been the toll on the United States Navy at Pearl Harbor, the toll on the United States Navy at Midway, though it was a great victory for America, and the toll on the United States Navy at the Battle of Coral Sea, though that too was a victory for America. Gunner's Mate 3rd Class Nelson, after graduating from boot camp, was assigned to the new cruiser USS Birmingham. He and his ship soon went to the Pacific. In October of 1944, the Imperial Japanese Navy and the United States Navy engaged in the longest-running sea battle of the Second World War, known as Leyte Gulf. USS Birmingham, with Gunner's Mate Nelson on board, saw extraordinarily intense action, as did another ship in company with Birmingham, the light aircraft carrier USS Princeton, a ship as long as 2 football fields. On October 24th, the carrier Princeton received a direct hit by a bomb dropped from a Japanese aircraft, and the ship quickly was consumed by fire and explosions. Birmingham pulled alongside the burning carrier, and with all available hoses, progressively extinguished the fire, moving from the front end of Princeton toward the rear, while in parallel, rescuing surviving crew members off Princeton. To assist in putting out the most difficult fire burning at the stern of the ship, Birmingham sent 38 volunteer sailors to embark the burning hulk of Princeton. Lowell Nelson, with just 1 year in the Navy, was among them. On board Princeton, the fires were causing small arms ammunition to explode everywhere, like popcorn in a kettle. Individual bombs stored in the carrier's magazines were exploding regularly. Princeton was a ticking time bomb. In the face of this danger, the strength of courage of Gunner's Mate Nelson and his fellow volunteers would have been enormous. The fire must have continued to spread downward in the ship toward the main magazines, because suddenly a massive explosion blew off the stern end of the ship that was the size of half a football field. Debris from the size of slivers to the size of houses flew into the air. Lowell Nelson's body was lost in the explosion, and his remains known only but to God. The brave firefighting actions of Birmingham and its sailors, including Lowell Nelson, contributed to saving the lives of over 1,300 sailors from the burning ship Princeton. The Prairie. Gunner's mate Lowell Nelson. Quiet strength. The wind. The wind is ever present in North Dakota. Our state has the highest average wind speed of all 50 states. The wind over the prairie is the great communicator. It connects all things in all places in North Dakota. The wind delivers and takes away our weather. It spreads the seeds of our plant life. Never in North Dakota is there a town with just 1 yard with dandelions. The wind carries scents and hints of presence. The wind shares the history of where it came from and gives warning of what is to come. The wind speaks to us as the spirit of the prairie. The wind, too, is reflected in our people, communicators, connectedness, ever present. During the First World War, Richard Blue Earth became the first Native American from North Dakota to enlist in the U.S. Armed Forces. In 1917, coming from Cannonball and the Standing Rock Sioux Reservation, he volunteered to fight for the United States, even though at the time, Native Americans were not permitted to become United States citizens. As World War I raged in Europe, communication secrecy became vital. With enemy forces intercepting messages, the U.S. military turned to a unique advantage: Native Americans and their languages. 33 tribes, including Standing Rock Sioux, participated in this effort. Corporal Blue Earth joined these code talkers. Together they used their languages to protect United States and Allied soldiers on the battlefield. Blue Earth also became a noted sniper. He fought bravely throughout the brutal Argonne Forest campaign. On October 9th, 1918, 1 month from the end of the war, Blue Earth tragically in battle gave his life for a United States that would not yet accept him as a citizen. Corporal Blue Earth's contributions to the U.S. military and to the freedom of our allies was recognized by the U.S. Army, awarding him the Silver Star, and the French government, the Four Guerre, both honoring exceptional valor. Blue Earth and many other Native Americans helped defeat the Central Powers of World War I. They paved the way for the famed Navajo code talkers in World War II. But most impactful for generations to come, the exceptional contributions of Corporal Blue Earth and his fellow Native Americans to the United States in World War I resulted in all Native Americans being granted United States citizenship on June 2nd, 1924, the 100th anniversary of which is next week. Blue Earth's voice for respect and recognition to his last breath became the wind that now connects all North Dakotans as fellow citizens of the United States. The wind, Corporal Blue Earth, speak to us. The birds. The birds of North Dakota are everywhere. The birds and their songs are omnipresent. The birds seem to always be watching over us. Their calls convey renewal at the beginning of daylight every morning. They arrive at important times of the year. Robins mark the spring, geese and ducks the harvest. The year-round sparrows and blackbirds, always so numerous, survive the coldest, windiest, darkest days and keep calling, sending the message that if they can do it, we can too. Birds are the angels of the prairie. The birds are also reflected in our people, watching out for one another, being there when it matters, delivering comfort, being angels. During the Vietnam War, Lyle Maynard Johannes graduated from high school in Cullom and enlisted in the United States Army. Despite the controversy of the war, he felt it was his duty to serve. He was proud to be in the Army. Lyle had a sunny, fun-filled outlook on life and regarded everyone with interest and sincerity, which was modeled so well on his mother, Joyce. I knew Joyce and her husband, Maynard. She worked at the school with my father, and our families attended the same church in Cullom, then a town of 625 people. I did not know Lyle. He had graduated just before we moved to Cullom. But I knew Lyle's younger sisters. As a young boy, captivated with high school sports and music, I greatly admired the Johannes sisters and their classmates. I wanted to be like them, but they all wanted to be like Lyle. Lyle was a fun-loving, gregarious guy, a bit of a prankster. He was everyone's friend. All the girls in school loved him. He played sports. He fixed cars. He played pool with the old man in the pool hall. He carried groceries home for the elderly. And one Halloween, he collected pigeons, another bird common on the prairie, but the gunny sack full from the barns in town, and he let them loose in the high school gym. The three things that were most important to Lyle were his family, his friends, and his faith. Lyle volunteered to serve in the Army, as had his uncles and his older brother. In Vietnam, his true North Dakota personality shone through. He made lots of friends with the Vietnamese people, finding time in the middle of the war to show compassion and care for the people he was defending. On January 29th, 1970, a month after Christmas, an accidental shooting on his base took the life of Specialist 4 Lyle Johannes. While I was only 7 years old, I remember the raw emotion, the change in mood in the whole town. I remember there was confusion over what actually happened to Lyle, making the news of his passing and the emotion all the more difficult. Lyle's death brought the whole community of Cullum together. The funeral, to accommodate all who wanted to attend, was held in the high school gym, the very same gym into which a younger Lyle had released the pigeons. Before the service, the men in Cullum went to our church, carried out the organ, and took it to the gym so that there would be proper organ music for the hymns. Some 3 decades later, Lyle's sister Joanne, who is here with us today, obtained his records, finding it was a forgotten chambered round and an inadvertently handled weapon that had struck her brother. Lyle had received an irrecoverable wound from the bullet, though doctors had tried valiantly to save his life. Upon informing her mother of the circumstances of Lyle's passing, her mother's first words were, "That poor man," referring to the other Army soldier who would have to go on in life with what he accidentally had done. Like his mother, who thought of others first, Lyle put others ahead of himself. He made a tremendous impact on the lives of other people in Vietnam and in North Dakota, where he's still talked about in Cullum. He made friends wherever he went, and with a longer life, he would have made such a difference in the Army, North Dakota, and the wider world. The birds, even the pigeons, Specialist 4, Lyle Johannes, our angels. For all of us, we have been given life. To whom then will we give our life? For 2,956 North Dakotans, they wore the uniform of our armed forces, and they gave their life to our nation. May the prairie remind us of their quiet strength. Gunner's Mate 3rd Class, Lowell Raynard Nelson of Grand Forks. We remember. May the wind speak to us with their spirit. Corporal Richard Blue Earth of Cannonball. We remember. May the birds, with their angelic calls, remind us of all who served and gave their lives in service to our nation. Specialist 4, Lyle Maynard Johannes. We remember. For these three and all their fellow North Dakotans who gave their lives in service to our nation, we remember. We always will remember. Rest in peace.
Thank you, Admiral Munch. At this time, the North Dakota National Guard's 188th Army Band Cover Down Brass Quintet will perform How Great Thou Art. In a moment, you will hear our firing party, comprised of members of American Legion Gilbert S. Furness, Post 40, and veteran of foreign wars Harry L. Kidd, Post 707, who will fire 3 volleys. Immediately afterwards, Douglas Weber of AMVETS, Post 9, will perform taps, the 24 notes of America's most famous bugle call. The rifle volley and taps signal the highest honors in memory of our nation's fallen warriors. Of all the military bugle calls, none is so easily recognized or more likely to render emotion than the sounding of taps. The melody is eloquent, stirring, and haunting. Ladies and gentlemen, if you are able, please rise, face the Flag Plaza, and remain standing through the end of the ceremony. Military members and veterans, please present arms when taps is performed. Veterans, execute rifle volley. Under the leadership of Command Sergeant Major Eric Binstock, the Military Funeral Honors Team will fire a 21 cannon salute using the World War era French 75 millimeter cannon. After the cannon falls silent, the flags at the Flag Plaza, as well as the 50 U.S. flags lining both sides of the cemetery, will be raised to full staff by our military veterans. Sergeant Major, take charge of the cannon crew. Military members and veterans, please face the Flag Plaza. Present arms. Military members and veterans, order, arms. Please consider observing a moment of silence at 3 p.m. today. This national moment of remembrance may be observed informally wherever you are at the time. Thank you to veteran organizations and auxiliaries who have a table set up by the chapel. Thank you to those who participated in our color guard. Thank you to the Red Cross and Salvation Army for coffee and snacks. And thank you, Vietnam Vets, Legacy Vets Motorcycle Club, who organized the honor run of motorcycles. Following the ceremony, the motorcycle riders will travel to Fort Rice for a leisure ride if anyone wishes to join them. Today, Fort Abraham Lincoln State Park is offering free admission and guided tours for military members and veterans in honor of Military Appreciation Day. Please consider visiting this historic site. The shuttle vehicles will be ready to deliver you to the parking lots at the west end of the parking lot. As you wait a few minutes for most of the motorcycles to exit the grounds, please move towards the Flag Plaza and then the MIA POW Memorial to listen to the Standing Buffalo Singers as they perform songs in honor of our military veterans. In closing, I'd like to thank all of the folks that ensure this annual ceremony is successful, the cemetery staff and the members of the North Dakota National Guard that direct traffic, run the shuttles, and the volunteers that decorated over 11,100 graves early this morning with small U.S. flags. Let us recognize everyone participating in today's ceremony with a round of applause. At this time, I would like to invite Chaplain Justin Waltz of the 119th Wing to render the closing prayer. Please rise if able and remain standing until the colors are retired.
And let us pray. O King and Judge of the nations, we remember before you with grateful hearts the men and women of our armed forces, who in the day of decision ventured much for the liberties we now enjoy. Grant that we may not rest until all people of this land share the benefits of true freedom and gladly accept its disciplines. Through Jesus Christ our Lord, who with you and the Holy Spirit lives and reigns now and forever. Amen.
Please continue to stand and redirect your attention to the plaza as we retire the colors. Color Guard commanders, retire your colors. This concludes today's ceremony. Please drive safely and have a great day.